See you. No. Today's video is all about how to make quick and easy cards. There are 7 tips in the video that you can implement right now for any of your card making sessions. Sometimes we don't have hours and hours to devote to making a card. I got you covered.
All right, so first up, pre-cut it. I'm talking pre-cut everything. First up, these are card panels. So these are cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 or 4 by 5 1/4. It's really whatever. These are the panels that I glue onto my card bases. They are categorized by white, black, vellum, miscellaneous, which has like glitter, mirrored cardstock, fun little textured specialty card backgrounds. And then I actually have a background section where I have made these in the past, whether it be gel printing, embossing, die cutting. These are all backgrounds that I can use on a card. So I have that all set in the back. So that's the first thing I pre-cut. And the second thing is I pre-cut my card bases. So these are in rainbow order and they are all top folding cards and scored and cut. So all I have to do is pull from here and go ahead and adhere my card panel to this. So that is a time saver. I cannot begin to tell you. And all this to the right are my colored envelopes. Those already came as envelopes. I am way too lazy to make my own, but this is such a time saver. My second tip is multi-sentiment stamping. I've got a couple sets I'm going to show you here that feature these sentiments with coordinating die cuts that kind of do it all in one. The first one is from the 10 Stamps. This is a birthday themed sentiment set, but she has others as well, and I'll link to them in the supply list if they're available. I'm all about using what I have right now, so I've had these for quite some time, but if they're around, I'll link to them. So this particular set has 2 different stamps that you'll line up, and I love it because it incorporates 2 different fonts. So here I am inking up the first part, and whichever section you ink up first does not matter. You'll see those little rectangles there at the top and the bottom, and even that little dot. They're obviously out of place, but that helps you line everything up. So here is the second part of the sentiment. So this is a totally different font, which I love, and I'm just lining up those rectangles together. That's it. That's how you line it up. The third tip I've got actually is in here too. It's using a stamping positioner or platform or whatever. I'm using the MISTI stamping tool. I got it when it first came out. I love it. It's great for fixing my mistake. For instance, up at the top, I didn't really ink up that happy very well, so I was able to fix that because I have this stamping positioner here. They also work for many, many other things, and I have a video I'll link in the description if you want to see a whole bunch of techniques on how to use your stamping tool, or I'm using the MISTI. And here's the coordinating die. You just line up those rectangles. See the rectangles and the little dots there that you stamped? Well, you line those up with the coordinating die. So easy, and then bada bang, bada boom. Check it. You get all these sentiments all at one sitting. Like, I love this. I thought this was a brilliant thing. I think it's a patent pending product for her, if I'm not mistaken. She also has some standalone sentiments. So if you just have standalone sentiment sets that don't have dies, you can do that too. Just use your stamping positioner if you have one, which I strongly encourage. It's definitely a time saver. And then you can just put them on your stamping tool, ink them up, and then you can just cut them. You can either cut them with your paper trimmer, you can freehand them with scissors, whatever you are comfortable cutting, but you can also do it that way as well. You can stamp on black cardstock and white heat emboss. I like to do white cardstock for the most part because then I can go in and color my strips if I want to make them some form of matching color by using an ink pad. You can do it 2 ways. This way I'm just doing a blending brush, or you can take your ink pad direct to the sentiment strip and then you get colored sentiment strips. Another stamp set I also had in my stash, this is one from Tailored Expressions. It's an oldie. If it's available, I'll still link it down there for you in the description box. So this one is actually a rubber stamp. So for my MISTI tool, I'm actually taking out that mouse pad or that little pad that's in the MISTI because I don't need it. You only use that when you're using clear stamps. Since this is a rubber stamp, it's thicker, so I didn't need that, so I removed it. And then I'm going to go ahead and ink this up just like I did before. So again, the only difference I did with this, because it's a rubber stamp, is I took out that mouse pad or rubber insert that the MISTI comes with. Then this die just lines up those squares. Fairly easy. And then you can go ahead and run that through your die cutting machine, and then you get a whole bunch of sentiments this way as well. Now this has that little, I don't know what it's called, like the little banner tails, the little ribbon tails on the edges. if you don't like that look, like if it's too fancy or whatever, you just don't like it, that is not a big deal. You can just grab some scissors and just hack off the edges like this. Just snip, bye-bye, bye-bye, and there you go. Another tip is having your own magic mug. I now have 2, plural. This is my magic mug. This one holds all of my die cuts and sentiment strips that I've done in the past. Sometimes I just stamp a whole bunch, or you can see how many sentiments I made just right here in this video. So that mug has all of my die cuts, all of my sentiments. And then this bowl has all of my images that I've stamped or colored or were just left over from a project. They all go in these magic mugs. And then when I am making cards or pulling together cards, all this stuff is in here. So it makes pulling things together so easy. Sometimes I only use what are in these mugs to finish my projects because heck, these are already cut and colored and whatever. So use them up. And this really helps take the pressure off of, oh, how am I going to finish my card? You already got them sitting here in your magic mugs. Pattern paper is such a good time-saving tip. This is all the pattern paper I have left. I did a major purge. This is what made the cut. And I tell you, sometimes this is all you need. This is a beautiful watercolor peony that I could have watercolored on my own. It would have taken a whole lot of time. But instead, I just cut that down to whatever size I wanted my panel to be. I grabbed a sentiment from that magic mug. And I mean, I was able to do this card in like 1 minute. You can add a little bit to pattern paper if you want. And that black card base, by the way, that came from my pre-folded card base bin. So that was already done too. So I'm going to glue this panel down to that black card base. And then I'm just going to flick on a little bit of black paint just to finish it off. And I'm telling you, that's a cool card in 60 seconds. Backgrounds, whether it's a stamp background or a gel printed background like I did in my last video, I made all of these prints in my last video. If you do backgrounds on full sheets of cardstock, you can cut those down and get a whole bunch of cards off of it. Now for these 2 cards that I'm going to make, it's a twofer. We're going to get a twofer, which is another time-saving tip. If you can, get a twofer, and I'm going to show you what that means. So I went ahead and cut this panel down to size, whether it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 or 4 by 5 1/4, whatever you want it to be. And here's how I'm going to get my twofer. I'm using a very big word die. It says hi. I'm sure you can see that. And on another one of the panels that I trimmed down, I'm going to just go ahead and adhere a circle die. I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine, and I'm going to come back. So I'm actually getting a 3fer. That's not a word, but I like to make things up here on the channel, so it's a 3fer. So I've got my circle there, and then I've got my high. And I only used 1/2 of that print. Basically, that piece of paper gave me 4 cards, so I've only used 2 of the 4. So I've still got 2 left I can use for something else. So I went ahead and got some, this is all pre-cut. That glitter paper was pre-cut. That card base was pre-cut. So I went ahead and glued all that down. And here I'm going to glue the negative space of that die cut panel down. So we've got high somewhere else, which we're going to use for our twofer. As you can see, I'm doing here, pulled out that same glitter background paper. It's all pre-cut. And then I'll trim that down to size. You can always trim your stuff down. And don't lose your tittle. That's a tittle. Did you know that? Sometimes I think to myself, where's my tittle? Where is my tittle? And then I think, ooh, that sounds dirty, but it's not. The dot at the top of the eye is called a tittle. It just is. So anyway, the card to the left, I didn't really like that negative space showing through, so I just die cut the word high one more time with some white cardstock, found my tittle, and glued it on there, and then I was able to get a twofer, but a 3fer because I got that circle. You remember my circle card? Well, take a look at what I did here. So I just popped this up with some foam dimension onto some cool cardstock that I had cut down. Boom! So I used 2 of the gel print panels, and I got a whole bunch more. So think about that when you're stamping your backgrounds. Maybe stamp it on a bigger platform, and then you can cut it down and get a whole bunch of cards out of that. Did you have a favorite? Do you have any time-saving tips and hacks? Share them in the comments. I want to see them, and so do my viewers as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.